Okay, straight to the Italian Serie A. So we cross over from the DStv Premiership straight to the Italian Serie A, right? But here's my question to all of y'all, the viewers, right, at home, from wherever you are, right? Do you think now the title is slowly slipping away from the hands of the old lady, Juventus, right? Because they drew away from home with Hellas Verona in what was supposed to be a must-win game, right? They were supposed to have collected the 3 points in that particular encounter, but they were held to a 2-2 draw away to Hellas Verona, right? So what does that mean? That is actually putting a detriment to their title hopes once again, both them and AC Milan, because Inter Milan are sincerely and they are basically running away with it. They're basically the runaway leaders, are Inter Milan, right? Because clearly they seem to be in full gear to actually clinch another Scudetto. So look, luckily Adrian Rabiot, he scored the leveler, but Juventus now they've dropped more points, in a chaotic draw at Hellas Verona, right? And they did not need a draw from this particular encounter, did Juventus. They just did not need this result, right? So the Frenchman, Adrien Rabiot, he rescued a draw for Juventus, but Max Allegri's side now they've dropped more points in a chaotic 2-2 draw away to Hellas Verona. I mean to say Hellas Verona, right? And on a Saturday afternoon, you would have actually betted all your money on Juventus, but still, they've disappointed once again. And Michael, give credit to Michael Folorushno's, men, who gave the host the lead, with the stunning volley before Dusan Vlahovic, leveled the game from the penalty spot. And in a wild 3 minutes, we saw Tijani Noslin, put Verona back in front before Rabiot made it 2-2 moments later, right? And from that particular moment in time, it was actually a vital point that was gained for Hellas Verona, and which actually meant that, the 2 points that were dropped by Max Allegri in an entertaining 2-2 draw, it has actually put, their title hopes on the line, because now they are basically further out of sight, because Inter Milan are basically running away with it once again. And Juventus are now 4 games, without a victory and 9 points off the pace, of Inter Milan, because now Inter Milan are now 9 points ahead of second place Juventus. So you look at how the home side actually fended in this particular encounter, which is Hellas Verona. The home side actually looked far from, the relegation fodder that their league position would indicate, right? It's like you couldn't tell that this particular side, Hellas Verona are actually struggling, in the relegation zone, right? Because the way they actually put up a great performance against a much fancied Juventus is actually something that you have to give them credit, and it's something that you have to commend them for. Because, look, they had the better chances in the first half, and going ahead with the volley is worthy of champions from, Michael Folorushno, right? And from that particular moment in time, Juventus, got the equalizer 17 minutes later, which was actually fruitless because a venomous shot from outside the box hit Jackson, the defender Jackson Chachuchua, inside the box, and then the referee Marco Di Bello, deemed it to have, hit his hand, and his hand was in an unnatural position. So, yeah, I sincerely agree with the referee for actually giving the penalty, to Juventus, for handing them a lifeline. And obviously from the penalty spot, the Serbian striker Dusan Vlahovic made no mistake, from the penalty spot, and actually gave Juventus some glimmer of hope of actually going on to secure at least all 3 points from behind. But it wasn't actually what you would actually expect, what we actually expected, or what we actually had foreseen, because the second half was a repeat of the first, right? As we saw, Hellas Verona took the lead once again, with Noslin, putting the home side ahead again, 7 minutes into the second half, standing up to make some firm tackles to slot home a great opportunity presented to him by Suslov, right? And they were actually caught napping, just moments later though. And Juventus went straight up the other end to equalize for a second time through, their French midfielder, Adrien Rabiot. And despite the blow, Verona continued, to press. You understand? They continued to actually show more intention. They continued to actually show that they want to win the game. They continued to show that, we are not afraid of Juventus. We have nothing to lose. We're going to go all for it, right? And that's exactly what we saw in this particular encounter. So, as for Juventus, I mean, I don't see any way back for them. I think they just have to settle for second spot at this particular moment in time, because I honestly truly don't believe that Inter Milan are gonna let it slip, right? I mean, if Inter Milan are to let this title race slip, then I think it's gonna require so much of a miracle, right? It's really gonna require so much of a miracle, because look how the home side played, Hellas Verona. Irregardless of the fact that they did concede that equalizer, they continued to press. They made, and they had to take their chances. And Juventus, stuck to a simple counter-attacking strategy that really did not produce nothing. It honestly produced little to nothing at all, right? And from that particular moment in time, we even saw the home side, they held out to the final whistle to actually earn themselves a decent result, right? But that particular result might not throw them out of the relegation zone, but certainly brings them, closer to safety. Juventus, for their part, must be wondering how can they buy a win, because look, I mean, they're now 4 games winless. And another thing is that, they're slowly, they're slowly making their way out of the title race, because Inter Milan are running with it, right? And it's just now a battle for second place between them and their rivals AC Milan, who also dropped points, right, at Monza, right, losing by 4 goals to 2. So you look at this one, right? Mathematically, the result against Verona means that now Juventus have only seen their title hopes diminish once again by a fraction. So psychologically, it must feel like, far more, as really did they look like, beating, the relegation threatened side, let alone even resemble the image of being champions, right? Because right now, you see, the Serie A is basically at the stage of the season where games left and right and points per game are increasingly the stats that matter. When it comes to the second half of the season, you reach a point where it's like, the title outcome is no longer in Juventus's hands, because now not only must they maximize their own tally, but they must also rely on Inter to stumble, and which is something that I really don't foresee happening, because right now, Juventus will actually require a degree of mental strength, that was completely, absent without leave on Saturday evening in that game against Hellas Verona, because at this particular rate, they really don't look like a team that wants to compete for the title. They don't at all. And right now, yes, mental strength will be required for them to actually keep on going, to actually not give up. But at this particular moment in time, I actually don't see them actually challenging for the league, because right now, Inter Milan are running away with it. And, congratulations to the man of the match, Michael Foloruncio, right, who actually got the opening goal for Hellas Verona. Because Hellas Verona, were robust from the back, from front to back. And the player, who was actually the man who actually deserved the accolade, for man of the match, could easily, go to their midfield dynamo of a hard tackling defender. But the player that set, Verona, on path to actually gaining a valuable point against, Juventus, was actually Michael Foloruncio, because he created a miraculous goal from the wall cloth early in the first half, right? And it actually helped his team to actually believe that they could claim something against the title contenders, and ensured that, the team would fight to the final whistle to do justice to a volley that will be replayed beyond the end of the season. And Foloruncio, himself ran ragged and made space for his teammates, contributing indirectly to Noslin's goal, right? The second goal that was scored by the home side. So it was actually a massive point for Hellas Verona, even though it does not do much for them in terms of relegation. But I'm sure this will be a massive confidence booster for them going into the next games, because I'm sure now themselves as well as their fans can actually believe that, they can actually survive. They can actually maintain their position in Italy's top flight next season. So again, there was then a touching tribute, before kickoff to Sinisa Mijajlovic, the former Lazio player, as well as the current Bologna coach, whose wife, Ariana, was also in the stands on Tuesday, would have been, celebrating his birthday. And Louis Ferguson blasted just over from the edge of the box, and Lukas Skorupski, stuck out the foot, to actually parry, cheer on form, Ciro Immobile's strike, right? And then there was actually bad news for Lazio, who actually lost Patrick, just after 12 minutes to what actually seemed, to be a muscular issue. And so Nicola Casella came on, and moments later, Immobile had the ball in the nets from a tight angle, but had wandered offside on the Felipe Anderson assist. Okay, and for the second time in the particular encounter, we saw John Lukumi, saw a pass intercepted, and Bologna were made to pay. As Isaksen, completed a give and go with Immobile to actually sweep home with the inside of his left boot. That was basically a neat and tidy goal from from Lazio, right? And I guess that was just poor defending once again. A lapse of concentration from the away side, to actually, and give credit to the home side, Lazio, for actually capitalizing on that, right? And then we actually saw from that particular moment in time, both Zirkzee as well as Riccardo Orsolini, couldn't quite get on the end of a dangerous Alexis Selamakas cross, while Skorupski denied Immobile after the offside trap failed, right? And then we also saw Isaksen, who thought he had made it 2-0 with a left foot curler on the half an hour mark, but Skorupski's literally just got off the fingertips to push it onto the upright, right? That was a brilliant save from the Bologna goalkeeper, once again. However, from that particular moment in time, we actually saw the away side, equalized, when Lazio were caught out trying to play from the back. Luis Alberto overhit the back pass, that Ivan Provedel struggled to deal with. So Giovanni Fabian pounced to set up Osama El Azuzi for a tap-in. Initially, the flag had gone up, but VAR showed that Casella was keeping everybody onside, and that was a pivotal equalizer, and that was a pivotal turning point, because we saw that the home side, the away team, were certainly showing more intention of wanting to actually win and claim all 3 points, right? Because we saw the Bianco Celesti, they fought back immediately, and then Isaksen's, stinging, Skorupski's gloves, and then on the resulting corner, Matteo Guendouzi's effort was cleared off the line by Lukumi, and then Maurizio Sarri was furious on the stroke of halftime, feeling that Isaksen was fouled by Ferguson right on the edge of the box, but then the referee waved play on, so there was no check by the video assistant referee. And then from that particular moment in time, we saw Lazio, started to look tired, and they allowed more of the possession to the visitors, but they were still dangerous, as Skorupski had to come off flying off his line to take the ball off the feet of Tati Castellanos, who had sprung offside, who had sprung past the offside trap on a pass over the top. Bologna then turned the game well around, completely with a well-worked move as Zirkzee spread the pass to Victor, Christensen, down the left, then ran, through the center to be ready for a return ball, scoring from 12 yards with the right boot. So that was an incredible comeback from the away side. And basically, Lazio, actually tried to pull forward with a series of set plays, but, now this is their fourth consecutive Serie A victory for Bologna, who actually catch up with Atlanta in actually fourth place. So it's actually getting interesting. It's getting heated, the battle to actually qualify for next season's UEFA Champions League.